party. Dislocated dead or gone. I have plenty to preach. Come and hear it.
Enemy horse closing in on our position!
Originally I wanted to make a review about Darktide, but upon release some key features were missing, and although I have 150 hours in Darktide, it's hard to see what the endgame is right now, so instead I'll do an impressions video and I may publish a full-length review once all the features have been released and I can accurately assess the game. But for now, let's run through my impressions thus far. Warhammer 40k is a game that you can sink hundreds of hours into. Fatshark, who are the developers of Darktide and Vermintide before it, are experts in first-person combat. Whether it be Vermintide, Vermintide 2 or Darktide, each game is unique, visceral and engaging in its own right. Darktide sets a new high for combat that Fatshark is known for, and with over 150 hours already played and all 4 of my classes at their max level, I can safely say that Darktide follows the award-winning formula when it comes to its combat. Darktide reaches new peaks and creates an atmosphere where it sucks you in and doesn't let you go. When I think about what makes this experience so special, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is. There are a number of factors which meld into an amalgamation of badassery, a gritty atmosphere, gory and tangible animations, and excellent soundtracks. They're all a part of this formula. And if you played the previous Tide games, you can see the evolution of combat from a simplest attack and a stroke of a sword to a head of an enemy, which becomes so smooth it feels like a hot knife going through butter. Perhaps the most invigorating aspect of all of it is how weighty it all feels. Bonks, smashes and slashes give you this real-time feedback, communicating exactly what happens in a frantic moment-to-moment action. But despite this amazing combat, the game feels like a letdown in other areas. Bugs plagued the launch, causing visual glitches, hard crashes and even lost progression. I played during the beta and throughout the full launch and not much was improved. Until this day I still lose progression and resources to unknown issues. Server errors persist and frame rates plummet, optimization has gone out of the window and we are left beta testing a game supposedly in its full launch. The thing that this game was delayed for over a year, and what for? What exactly did you delay it for, Fatshark? How unfinished was the game at the time of the delay, if it's currently in such a bad state? My 3080 chugs, even in the simplest environments, and forget about ray tracing on most cards because it will bring you under 30 frames a second. Ray tracing is even disabled because of how broken it is. Settings don't stick and you have to recreate your graphics profile every time you open the game. It's needlessly frustrating and the game should never have been in this state. I'm deeply disappointed that we can't appreciate the iconic 40k universe in the way that the artist wanted us to see it, because it's filled with sky-piercing citadels, clustered hive cities, abyssal-like sewers, misty prisons, and even bleak deserts, if you would believe that. These are all a part of the 40k universe, and the only way to experience it in-game right now is with everything looking subpar in quality. And don't get me wrong, the game still looks great, but the sheen has been taken off by this half-baked product. Then there's the loot system. Previously in other Tide games you would be rewarded for finishing missions. This was consistent and it scaled with the difficulty that you had. You could hunt for your favorite weapon on the hardest difficulties, knowing that even if you didn't find the weapon you were looking for, you'd still be rewarded with other things. But not in Darktide. You may get one reward. It might come only in a blue moon and it usually has trash rolls or is low in rarity regardless of the mission difficulty. You see, in previous games you could improve your rarity drops by picking up special items in the run, which made resource management very important, as you couldn't hold a tome or a grimoire and take healing. The way the tomes and grimoires work is they upgrade the loot boxes, therefore upgrading the rarity, therefore giving you more rewards. But at the end of the mission you would be rewarded this loot box and you could just do as you please with it. You could dismantle the weapons, you could upgrade them. But Darktide has no such feature, and you take the tomes and grims for a minor reward of a slight increase in XP and currency, making the payoff not worth it at all on higher difficulties. I mean, why would you run the hardest difficulties with a handicap that could potentially tank your run and waste everyone's time for such a little reward. And an even worse offender is that you can't even craft the weapons you want. You have to rely on a shop with a 1-hour timer and constantly check it, only to be shown trash gear that's well below the maximum item level that you currently have. And currently there are 57 weapons and variants in the game, with 2 more being added on the 14th. When we were promised 80 for launch, it begs to question what the hell is going on. Crafting is missing for the most part, and seemingly Fat Shark haven't learned anything from their previous games, except for the cash shop, which is implemented without a hitch, and even came with a complimentary FOMO timer to just ram it home that we are playing an early access game, but that we should pay full price and then spend money in a microtransaction store. What's worse is the skins are actually really good, and I bought 2 of them, and then when I compare them to the other skins in the game that you can buy from the shop with the currency, it literally feels like the biggest slap in the face to dedicated players to Fat Shark and the Tide universe. So one of the biggest differences in Darktide is that you can create your own character. You choose their planet, you choose the origin story, you choose their personality profile essentially. You choose what was the career-defining moment and then what led them to the prison at the start of the game. This is great. You can make your own character, you can make it look however you want within the limited aspects of the character customization, but the problem lies in the variety. You see, the character that you make will fit into one of 4 classes. You have the Ogryn, typical giant, big, strong, kind of dumb. You have the Zealot, who is a melee-focused, zealous character. You have the Psyker, who is Warhammer 40k's equivalent of a mage, and then you have a Sharpshooter, who is an army veteran who's very good at shooting things, evidently. Now, the problem is, in Vermintide, you had 5 preset characters, and they have an overarching narrative that already exists. Within those 5 characters, you have 3 different careers at the launch of Vermintide. Now, these careers essentially function as classes, so in total you had 15 different subclasses or careers, and this allowed you to experiment with different gameplay. And I feel so let down by Darktide, and it almost angers me because there are 15 classes at launch for Vermintide. 15. Like, what the hell are you doing, Fat Shark? Why? I don't understand. Your projection is 1 class every quarter for Darktide, and it will literally take 4 years to get to the place that Vermintide launched in. There isn't enough variety in the weapons, the maps, or the classes to keep this interesting for a whole year before at least a couple of classes come out. Whereas Vermintide 2 never felt repetitive to me, because I could always look for new weapons, materials, or play a different class completely, and they had entirely new weapons, and the characters had flavor and personality and style that were linked with those particular subclasses that they were playing. It even changed their voice lines and how they interacted with other teammates. I don't feel connected to the characters in Darktide. And when you have 4 Ogryns on a team with slightly different personality profiles and they all have the same Russian voice, it gets dull quickly. I don't play Darktide right now for those characters. I play it for the combat. The combat has been refined in such a way that it's very addictive, it's very satisfying, it's very visceral, and I love this. But there is so much nuance missing from the characters. The banter was one of the biggest parts of Vermintide 2. The banter between the characters, they knew each other's history, they made fun of each other. Now you have this in a very limited way, but when you have a writer like Dan Abnett who has such a vast well to pull from, it's weird that I don't feel connected to any of the characters. Every decision that they made, every line that they said in their missions felt like it had an overarching narrative in Vermintide 2, but that doesn't exist in Darktide. Instead, what you get is a, hey, go here, collect this ammo for this mission that you'll never hear or see. I love playing Darktide, and don't get me wrong, and I love Ogrins. They are very, very funny characters. Everything else feels so lifeless and mundane when it comes to the characters. Even the story isn't complete, and you get about 5 minutes of cutscenes. There's basically no story, villain, or agenda really. You're on a hive city, you have to flush out the chaos here, and that's kind of it. You're sent to these missions that don't in any way feed into the narrative. There's so much to love here. There's so many things wrong with this title. It genuinely makes me so sad, and even though I stream it and I can lose hours in it, my heart is heavy with the idea of what this could have been. It could have been so much greater, and it probably will be a great game in a year or two, but by then it'll be too late. There are so many games coming out in 2023 and 2024, and I would hate for Darktide to be lost in obscurity because you couldn't nail the launch of the game. The technical issues, the lack of variety, the broken promises, all of this hurts so much when it comes to the love I have for the game and for the developers. And I know they're going through a hard time, and you know, it's difficult to make a game of this scope. But lean into what makes your franchise and series good and what makes people love your game. Because hopefully you can fulfill the promises of grandeur, but right now I feel very disenfranchised. And I feel slightly alienated, and it's not just me, it's the community on a whole. We feel like we haven't been listened to, and we know what makes this game great because we've spent hundreds and thousands of hours in this. And I really hope that this game can see an improvement in the future. Anyways guys, sorry for the ad-libbing there at the end, but I really just wanted to get that part out inside the impressions video. I hope you enjoyed the impressions video. Typically these are shorter, and look, if Darktide happens to revamp some of its systems, release more content, you know, really get its crafting system out there, I will probably put out a review for it. But for now, we're gonna have to settle with this impressions video. This is what I think, and I don't recommend that you buy it just yet unless you have friends to play it with, or if it's on sale, or you really love the Warhammer 40k universe. Right now it's not a good experience to play, and there isn't much variety, and if you don't love the combat, you're not gonna find yourself loving the game that much. Anyways, thanks guys, thanks for tuning in. If you like the content, feel free to give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I'm also streaming on twitch.tv/beardedbreakdown. I stream on Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays, usually between 6 till 9. Come and join us. It'd be really great to have you. We'd love to hear what you think about the game in the comment section, so leave a comment. And thanks for tuning in. See you later. Bye.